answers, do you know that? Hey, here's some questions that we don't ask. When the power is out, do we turn to nomads?
All right, what is going on, guys? It is Adam, a.k.a. Marf, and this is Marfoogle News. Barack Obama visits Downing Street for a surprise meeting in number 10. Now, nobody is really talking about some of the things that are kind of odd about not only this visit, but another we're going to talk about here in a minute. But first off, to just give you the backstory here, Barack, our former prez, ended up visiting Downing Street for a surprise meeting at number 10 with Rishi Sunak. Now, if you're not familiar, number 10 is the house or the home of the Prime Minister. The former U.S. president, who served in the White House between 2009 and 2017, waved at reporters outside before he entered the Prime Minister's residence for a previously undisclosed private meeting at 3 p.m. Now, what was going on in this private meeting? Now, we'll actually talk about another meeting that just happened with Barack, and it happened just a few minutes away from a very, very specific place that no one is really talking about. A Downing Street spokesperson insisted that the visit was an informal courtesy drop-in. It says as part of the former president's visit to London. So they're saying that this was just a tour, that he was taking a tour and he's stopping by all his buddy houses, he's high-fiving and dropping off some smiles. It says they added that President Obama's team made contact, and previously the Prime Minister was very happy to meet with him and discuss the work of the Obama Foundation. Mr. Barack left number 10 after around an hour after a meeting with Mr. Sunak. The former U.S. president said, "I'm tempted," when asked questions by the media as he reemerged, and got into a Range Rover car with Jane D. Hartley, the U.S. ambassador to the U.K., just after 4 p.m. So you've got the ambassador, you've got the prime minister, and you've got our former prez, which our former prez doesn't, he's not in charge anymore, right? So there's no reason why, there's no business going on at this meeting, right? Well, we'll talk about that here in a second, because he visited a place that was just minutes away from NATO headquarters, and some are thinking, maybe something else is going on. So we'll talk about that here in just a second. We'll be right back right after this. Make sure to hit the subscribe button. Otherwise, you might miss some of the craziest updates. Nothing in this show should be considered legal, medical, or financial advice. The views of the callers can differ considerably and do not necessarily reflect my opinion, Dex's opinion, or anyone else who works with the show. You should always do your own research and consult with professionals. The internet is full of fake news, so please take everything with a grain of salt. If you have not already, it helps us out if you end up going through any of our affiliates, and it helps you out if you end up protecting yourself against cybercrime. NordVPN is one of the best and one of the easiest to use. If you do not have a virtual private network, it protects your IP address, which is your online identity, which actually connects to your real address and everything else. It also connects to you. If you know anything about how they are data logging and basically getting your profiles down, you can prevent that by having a VPN. Nord is, again, one of the easiest. Download it. It's like an on switch and off switch. All you have to do. Go to marfooglenews.com/VPN. Not only will you get a giant discount on this, but you will also be helping us. I appreciate your support, and I appreciate everyone that goes through any of our affiliates. Can't say thank you enough.
I give you answers, do you know that? Hey, here's some questions that we don't ask. When the power's out, do we turn to nomads? When the power's out, will you be an outcast? Leave the city and never get to go back?
All right, what is going on, guys? It's Adam, and of course the private meeting that went on. Now, we're only speculating here, but there's some other things that go into this that make it quite possibly very odd. So we're going to talk about that now. Now, of course, there was the Downing Street visit, and of course, just before, there was the former president actually meets with Belgian royal family. Now, again, this is just a vacation, or this is just a tour and meeting up with old friends, right? Of course, met with the Belgian royal family. Former President Barack casually stopped by a castle this weekend for a quick hello with the Belgian royal family yesterday. The 44th U.S. president was at Laeken Castle, where he was received by King Philippe and Princess Elizabeth. According to the Brussels Times, Barack traveled to Belgium for a talk titled, quote, "An Evening with President Barack Obama." So aptly named there in Pers Saint-Almond, Antwerp. The talk was part of the Technology Festival Supernova, organized by Flanders Technology and Innovation. The event, which took place last night, was a moderated conversation about the challenges we're facing and his vision for the future. Now, one thing that no one is talking about is the fact that this is just minutes away from NATO headquarters. Dex, do you want to pop in here? And this was a good catch as far as figuring out how close this was to NATO headquarters. We can only speculate, but what are some thoughts on this?
Well, certainly. I mean, look, he's going to he's popped into Downing Street. Okay, you can't really walk in. I think they originally, even though the article said they saw him going in at Downing Street, a lot of the other articles said they only saw him coming out. They didn't know he was there. They knew he came out. But we're not sure, specifically on the timing of that. Then he appears at this castle. Now, appearing at the castle, you can really sort of just write off. He's there to meet other, people that are influential and do things, in power, etc. But they're not necessarily the government officials. He's not there on official government business. Whereas the prime minister, he's in charge, totally different in the UK. So if he was to sneak into the castle there for a quick visit and hang out and talk to the king and the princess, who else could he meet with there? Other people could go there, and they could probably get in beforehand or even during and probably not get much fanfare, such as Jens Stoltenberg or any of the other high-ranking members from NATO, which is just 2.5 miles away by the crow flies. That's that yellow line on the map there. You can see it's not very far. It's right there. So anyone that works at NATO headquarters could easily have been part of that meeting. Now, do we have any confirmed information that happened? No, we don't. Let's be honest. I'm not trying to overhype something that doesn't really exist, but the proximity and why is he having that meeting and why did he just leave the prime minister in the UK and now let's head into and have a meeting with the king and princess from Belgium, which happens to be right next door, literally, to NATO headquarters. Why? Why is he doing it? Just happens to be on vacation?
And mind you, the press follows Barack everywhere he goes. Even like TMZ does Barack shots when they can get him. And as far as wherever he goes, by the way, there are articles all over. If you type in Barack's name, or if you even type in, Rishi's name in the last 2 days, or in the last 24 hours, it is all Barack visits Rishi. Why is he visiting Rishi Sunak? Why is he visiting the UK Prime Minister? Everyone has this question because there's obviously a lot of theories that maybe Barack isn't as retired as some think. Now, a lot of people believe that he is actually not retired, that he is, of course, as he himself said, our former president said, well, yeah, I think it would be great if I just continued being the president forever. And whoever took over just had kind of an earpiece I was able to talk into. He jokingly said, right? But a lot of people didn't take that as a joke. Everybody's like, yeah, that's kind of strange. All the things that started back then, a lot of those things are still going into play. A lot of the things during his admin that were started are just keep getting pushed. Now, as far as he was also the prez when the current prez was VP. So there's a lot of connections there too as well. But as far as, he was up until T-Man versus JB was the most votes ever received in selection day, right? And then of course, that changed when the next presidency happened, and even again with his VP the next time, right? So all of this and all of these visits, imagine if you were trying to set up a meeting between Barack and, say, Jens Stoltenberg. How would you do that? Well, they would go, oh, well, let's have you do like a little talk or something. Oh, we'll pay you $100,000 to do a speech there and have a talk with President Obama. They invite a few people. He does a couple quick talks, and then they go back into a back room for an hour, and the press is none the wiser. I mean, the distance from NATO to this castle is pretty insane. I mean, considering everything that's going on with NATO right now, you're saying that he didn't talk to Jens Stoltenberg, even though he's in an office 2 miles away? That's almost stranger. But again, when 90% of people say, oh, he visited the Belgian royal family, nobody even knows that NATO is there. 95% of Americans can't point to Belgium on a frickin' map, let alone know that NATO is right next to this castle. They're thinking, oh, he just visited some castle. When they visit Rishi Sunak at number 10, when it was even right as it was being reported, oh, he took a visit to number 10. Now, they know that there, but a lot of Americans don't know number 10. Number 10 is like the White House. It's like it's their residency for the prime minister president. So what do you guys think? I would love to hear your opinions on this. And of course, leave us a comment down below. Foogle fam, put your brains together and come up with something, because I think it's kind of crazy. K. Parker Fraser, thank you. Kristen Ober, old combat vet. Thank you, everybody, all the old school fam that are here, all the Marfia in the house. What is going on? Let's do a quick roll call before we get into some of the more serious news. We're going to talk about, of course, all of the conflicts that are going on right now. Shastina, thank you so much for making it today. Woodlander, stealth mode. Let's just a general state or province if you want to do a roll call real quick. We have Illinois in the house. We have Oak Grove, Montana. What is happening up? Swetnam Ministries. Thank you. Thank you. Let's see here. Oh, thank you, WIS Jen, for being here. We have Louisiana in the house. Nanny, what's going on? South Island, New Zealand. Let's see here. Upstate New York. We have Freedom Flyer. We have Kunak Steenholt. Steenholt. That sounds almost like I feel like I knew somebody that was from Alaska with that name. Midwest B. Blake, what is happening? We have some folks over on X. Thank you for popping in, and thank you for popping into chat. Janine D. Margaret Arnold, St. Thomas, Ontario. We have Beer Juice over on D Live. Fractured Fusion from Kansas. We have Old McDonald Has a Car from Michigan. Maine, Deep in the Woods. Gunslinger, thank you. Rebecca Snavely, Star. And Melanie White, Southern Idaho, what is happening? Northeast Washington State, Lost in Washington. Upstate New York, we have Poughkeepsie, what is happening? J-Girl, that's Smee, nice to see you. Marfoogle Bar and Brewing from Olympia, Washington, another local. Thank you for being here as well. And then CB, what's happening? We've got far Northeast Ohio. We have Kunak. Who is that there? Did you say, are you from Alaska? And then Texas, Conroe, Texas, Ohio, and hello from the wasteland, Revan. Is that DC? Wages World. I'm just kidding. Last week, even a woman from DC said, everybody hates DC. I don't think people hate DC. I think people hate the people that work in it. But yeah. Saffron Bay, and Kunik Steenholt from Greenland. Oh, wow. That's very, very cool. Hello from Nova Scotia, Canada. Giant Sequoia, Four Creeks, California. Wow, this is so cool. Queensland, Australia. Wow, that is so cool. We've got New Zealand. We have Australia. We have folks from Greenland. I don't know if you're in Greenland, but we had somebody said they're in Brazil. And we have somebody in Mexico right now. And what was that last one? I feel like there was another country there as well. We used to have a couple that watched from Venezuela. I don't know how. I think that's a little bit harder after all the stuff that went down there. Not that they can't get a VPN or whatever. And then we even have a couple folks watching from China. Xi, hi, how are you doing? And JPass from Purgatory. All right, let's go back into the news. And again, what do you guys think? Let us know. What do you think that meeting was about? And by the way, we're only speculating about that. Is he, bringing orders? Is this an unofficial business where they're like, hey, let's get this war started? Is he handing orders over like, hey, this is what we want to do? Also, there's a lot of stuff going on with NATO, different countries, as far as countries that are even asking Russia for protection. We'll probably talk over that over the next couple days as well. In fact, Dex, do you want to talk about Georgia and the breakaway region, discussing becoming part of Russia and where that fits into all of this?
Exactly. So Georgia, the country, sits just north of Turkey on the southern part of Russia, also just north of Azerbaijan and north of Iran. In that area, you can see on the screen. There is a region in the northern center section called South Ossetia, and it's a region that actually broke away from Georgia a while back, and it tries to call itself an independent state. If you recall, though, going all the way back to, say, the USSR, Georgia and all that was part of it. So, but nonetheless, at this point, the South Ossetia has been claiming they're separate. They wanted to be separate and break away from the country of Georgia. They've actually been recognized by Venezuela, Nicaragua, Russia, and Nora and Syria as countries that recognize their breakaway status, whereas the rest of the world just considers it a territory or a portion of the country of Georgia. So the other thing that's happening now is they're actually asking Russia to annex them in, and they want to become a part of Russia. They don't want to be an independent state. They don't want to be a breakaway country. They want to be part of Russia. At least that's what the speculation that's going on now. So this is very similar to what we've heard of with Transnistria out of Moldova. And it's also interesting when we talk about what the next story is, because we just got done talking about NATO and potentially the proximity to the meeting with Obama. And now we've got this country or this territory trying to break away. And what happens today after the weekend events? We've got Jens Stoltenberg visiting the country of Georgia. Yeah, NATO business.
The timing of it too. So with this, obviously, Barack potentially could have just met with Jens Stoltenberg. I think it'd be crazy if somebody that important, when somebody that important is in town, let alone 2.5 miles away. So imagine Jens Stoltenberg has been working with our current prez, who's the VP of this man, who was the VP for 8 years of that man. He visits within 2.5 miles of his office and then doesn't go visit him. Now, Jens Stoltenberg, as far as we could see on the schedule, was not somewhere until the next day. So he potentially, as far as we know, was in where NATO headquarters was, right? And then all of a sudden, you have him now the next day going to Georgia, which Georgia has that whole thing going on. Now, as Dex mentioned earlier, just like Transnistria is actually asking for some sort of protection, that's a different place in Moldova. This is something where this breakaway region is actually asking to join Russia. Now they're going to Georgia. What did they say to Georgia? What are they trying to recruit them into NATO? Would that be one more country into NATO? It's getting pretty crazy. Dex, go ahead.
Well, and just rewind a little bit. Look at the big UKR issue and the big conflict between Russia and UKR. It was in some regards very similar to this. You had a whole section of eastern Ukraine that was full of what people would consider traditional Russians, and they were wanting to, or at least by the part of the story is there were plenty in those regions that wanted to be part of Russia, not part of UKR. And there was constant fighting, there was constant battling going on. So if you had that, and then Russia rolls in to the rescue and says, well, we're going to take back that territory, or we're going to take that territory and liberate those people, as they claim they're doing. How is that any different than what we're seeing here in Georgia? How is it any different than what we're seeing in Moldova? So these two areas are potentially popping off to be the next proxy locations or the next escalation points. And they're both countries that have been asking to join or potentially talking to about joining NATO. Definitely Moldova has talked about joining EU and talking about joining NATO. And there's been conversations in passing about whether or not Georgia would join NATO at some point. Obviously, if Jens is popping in to say hi, he's not there on a, just on vacation. He's probably there on a sales call. It's like, yes, let's talk about what it takes to get you into NATO.
And by the way, this is super important. Look at the map. So here is Georgia right here. This is the border over here. This is Moldova. Transnistria is in Moldova, is also an area asking for protection from Russia. That would give Russia an excuse to say, hey, these guys actually want to be a part of our country. They would go through Ukraine and into Moldova, which was what everybody speculated when Belarus President Lukashenko was showing a map of saying, oh, well, then we'll go into here. It literally showed an arrow going from Ukraine into Moldova. So after they take Ukraine, they would go into Moldova. And of course, everybody was like, whoa, what the heck is that? Well, seems if it is what was obvious, that they would go in and they have a claim or Transnistria wants to join them again. Same thing with Georgia. Does that then give Russia an excuse to then go down here into Georgia? Will this expand into multiple countries? If it goes past Ukraine, then yeah, this is a huge deal. This is like everything they've said. And then, of course, over the last 2 months, we don't know what to believe. Nobody believes anything anymore. And I mean, why should we, right? We've been lied to for decades. We've been lied to forever. As long as we've been alive, all of us. Doesn't matter how old you are. History is the lies we all agreed upon, right? But as far as we've been lied to, but every piece of media, every expert, everybody's saying, German intelligence, all these intelligence agencies are saying that Russia is going to go to war with NATO, that Russia is going to surprise attack or do something to NATO, and that they're getting prepared for an imminent event with Russia. They're putting tanks on their border. They're putting what do you call them? Dragon's teeth, which are tank borders and barriers. They're digging trenches in places like Romania on the other side of Moldova. They are, of course, all preparing their citizens. They're all telling their citizens that this is about to go down. And, of course, this secret German plan leaked and let the cat out of the bag. And, of course, everybody thinks, oh, it's just propaganda. Well, again, I think all preppers are kind of the mind like, well, there's a chance that it's not. Or not that it's not propaganda, but there's a chance that part of this is true. So if that is the case, that would be a massive, massive escalation. Going into other countries other than Ukraine is going to be a massive thing. Let alone, you've got... And then, by the way, Jens Stoltenberg goes to Georgia after all of this goes down. They're saying they want Russia to protect them. Now you've got Jens Stoltenberg sneaking in and talking to them. A day after, of course, Obama comes, and maybe Obama was just the guy who delivered a message, right? Maybe they're secret orders, like we said. Maybe he's just the gentleman who is familiar with all of these people, very personable with all of these people, and he brought the folder or the manila envelope with all the stuff in it and went to the castle, and at the castle the day before, Jens or somebody else popped in and spent the night. They all wake up and meet in a meeting room and say, hey, this is how the war is going to go down. That's what we're speculating, of course. Dex, go ahead.
Well, one last thought on the geography part. Georgia is the only buffer it has on the south, on the furthest south point between it and Turkey. Turkey being a NATO ally. Even though Turkey has been fairly friendly with it, it's still a NATO ally. So having that buffer is beneficial, but losing that buffer and having it become yet another NATO territory that is now up against its borders is going against everything that Putin said in his recent interview about how it was his understanding that NATO would not expand, that NATO would not get closer to Russia, that things would just stay status quo and that's how it would be. And that has changed. So I'm just saying that from his perspective. Those were his words.
And think about this: NATO expanded 2 countries. What if Putin is literally like, okay, well then we'll expand 2 countries. You expanded into 2 countries. We're going to expand it into Georgia and Moldova. You know, eye for an eye, tooth for a tooth. So, what do you guys think? Let us know in the comments down below. Love to hear your thoughts on what is happening there. It's getting crazy. Snow Leo 6028, thank you on what does Elon really know? Thank you for the super thanks on Friday, I believe. Or yeah, I believe that was last Friday. Thank you very much. Appreciate that. And then Old Combat Vet, thank you. Jerry Shirts 99. Ilea, thank you. It says prayers for Trinities. Oh no, I hate that. That's horrible news. For the passing of her fur baby. Hugs over the weekend. Well, you guys know, you guys have met pretty much every animal I have, excluding the latest litter that we had of kittens. But you met the first litter, not the second. But you guys know we're an animal house, and yeah, I'm sorry, Trinity, wherever you are, if you're not here tonight. Prayers for your fur baby. And hugs over the weekend. Thank you, Ilea, and thank you for letting me know. And then Sweatin' of Ministries, some very cool celestial events happening in the next few months. Sweatin' of Ministries, you are absolutely right. There's the eclipse, which, by the way, the eclipse is lining up with all sorts of weird chatter. April into May is also when the military groups are all saying that, obviously the current military, they've been denied. A lot of them have been denied their leave. And they weren't told why, and they were offered in some cases they were offered extra compensation. Either way, they're compensated for whatever they can. I guess they can be delayed. They could be delayed indefinitely if they wanted to, especially if they need to. But they do get compensated because it's part of their contract and part of their pay. But specifically, soldiers that wanted to take off, their I think 23 days or whatever was the leave. They were not allowed to, and they were told check back in after March or May. Sorry, March, April, May. So, and that's April 8th is the eclipse, and then of course all of the other weird events, including some of the crazy, some of the holidays that are going on over that time. So I'm hoping that everything is totally kosher and totally relaxed over those 2 months, but gosh, that would be nuts if something went down. Also, obviously, there's like the crazier stuff, like people have been saying that the eclipse is in, what was it? iPet Goat 2, and then some even point out, I actually saw this too, the Leave the World Behind. Was it Leave the World Behind? Yeah, where it shows Earth in one of the scenes, and it shows an eclipse of the Earth, and it shows the ring around it. And I thought that was so creepy. Considering how much predictive stuff was in that movie, it's kind of nerve-wracking. And April, I think, is when that civil conflict movie comes out too. What do you guys think? Let me know in the comments down below. And then before we move on, as far as EMP and solar events that have been going on, EMP is, again, something that is a weapon that could be used against us. It's actually one of the most probable because it does not directly take lives, and it would destroy our grid. In fact, it is one of the first things any military would do is take out power, take out communications. It's like the first thing you do if you attack a country or attack a base or attack anything is you remove power and communications. As far as the multiple countries that have the ability to do this, pretty much every adversary has that ability. On top of that, this happens to line up, unfortunately, with Solar Cycle 25. Right now, we are also dealing with crazy solar events. Wages just went live right before this show. I don't know, he may still be live, but he was covering crazy solar events that are going on. I haven't had a chance to watch it, but again, if he goes live, it's usually a larger flare or set of flares, and we have been watching one after another. Solar cycle 25 for years has been predicted to be absolutely crazy. So if you do want to protect yourself, every one of the affiliates that we have are all things that are either going to help you prep, help you survive an event, or help you be comfortable through a disaster. So again, go check this out. This could be the difference of you being able to drive home or drive away to bug out, or being stuck in the water. So go to marfooglenews.com/EMP. It's a device that can be put in less than 10 minutes, and it will ground the signal of an EMP or a Carrington-level event from the sun in less than 500 trillionths of a second. Trillions. And, of course, keep your car running, your generators, your house, your devices, your solar system. Again, your solar generator in the case of the Energy. In fact, the Flex 1500, one of the only solar generators, is the only you can get the EMP shield directly for. So go check it out, marfooglenews.com/EMP. Make sure to use the code MARF. You'll get $50 off per device, and you'll help our independent channel. We are completely on our own, and we are up against a Goliath. So thank you guys. Other than that, though, please share our stuff out. Share with anybody and everybody, and then make sure to hit the subscribe button if you haven't already. I'll even do this so you guys remember. Look at this animation. Okay, everybody watch. Whoa, look at the clicky. That animation, it works. At least one person sees that and goes, oh yeah. Just kidding. People usually unsub. And Moscow, first post-election speech. Putin threatens NATO with World War III. So he's not a shining beacon of love right now. Dex, do you want to go over what he said right off the bat?
Yeah, right off the bat. So he warned that a direct confrontation between Russia and NATO would be, quote, one step away from a full-scale World War III. And that was in his speech, reflected in the reflection of his, winning victory of the selection process. And he went on to say, I think hardly anyone is interested in this. So yeah, he's pretty much right on that. And it comes to the people of the world, nobody wants that. But the fact that both sides are just hemming and hawing at getting into World War III or getting into a European NATO versus Russia war, it's never-ending cycle right now between both sides. We've got everybody on NATO saying Russia's about to attack them, and you got Russia saying, well, if you touch us, we're going to hit you with the nukes. And it just keeps amping up and amping up. And of course, doesn't waste time in his post-selection speech coming out of the gate and throwing this gauntlet out there.
And they point out that his comments come after French President Emmanuel Macron said last week he could not rule out the deployment of French troops in Ukraine if Russia's invasion continues. Some say that Macron said that because there are already troops there. Now, Germany actually somewhat admitted that there were already troops of other countries like France that were pulling the trigger on these missile launchers that essentially their trained people were there helping attack Russia. Everybody said, well, okay, that's NATO boots on the ground. If you have a NATO soldier in Ukraine running a weapon that actually attacks Russia, what else could that be called? Now, we don't know what happened after this. If Russia did not know that, which I assume they did, if they have any kind of intelligence, if their KGB is somewhat good, or what do they call it now? Dex, it's not KGB anymore. Is it the
FSA?
Something like that. Whatever their intelligence agency is now, if they have any intelligence at all, then they would probably know that there were already boots on the ground. But the rest of the world is looking at this and going, okay, so they just told Putin that there's boots on the ground in Ukraine. We all knew this. We called this like last year when there were Navy SEALs. And this is my speculation. They told us a story of a Navy SEAL who went AWOL from being a current SEAL, saw the story of Ukraine and said, I'm going to go AWOL from the U.S. military as a Navy SEAL, one of the most respected soldiers in all of the military here go AWOL from his position here and end up fighting on the front lines of Ukraine because he believed in it. He volunteered. Maybe he did. Maybe he's got family ties. But you don't go AWOL from the military here, especially from the SEALs, to go fight in another military. Like, usually people go AWOL because they want to avoid military service or they want to avoid a war, not to go fight in another one. And I saw somebody comment to that when that came out. They said, "Oh, he's just such a beast. Like he's he didn't care about the consequences. He wanted to fight for Ukraine." Okay, but that's still, you would think that he would somehow get permission. And what most people assume is that he did have permission or he was under official orders to go over there, but they had to cover that up because that would mean that U.S. boots are on the ground in Ukraine. That we've seen it in movies and things where you have somebody, black ops or clandestine operations where you can't say anything. It would be a global incident. And that's exactly what I thought it was. Now there's proof and leaks now. A year later, it's like we all knew. Our community knew. How many of you didn't know that there was boots on the ground in Ukraine? They had them train on these missile launchers for 3 months, the Patriot system, for 3 months in Germany. Mind you, the same country that leaked all this stuff, the same country that ended up saying, "Oh, yeah, by the way, we've got soldiers." Think about this. Germany, didn't they train in Germany to train the soldiers, the Ukrainian soldiers, for the Patriot missiles? What happened? Did multiple Patriot systems get hit or they got targeted or something? They got blasted and they were like, we can't lose another $1 billion every time one of these guys does it wrong. So what did they send their own guys in there? Like, were these guys just not learning? Was there a learning curve or something? Were they hitting the wrong targets? Like, was there an incident where a barely trained 2-month training guy ended up putting in the wrong digits and hit, something horrible over in Russia? That's what I wonder. Like, why couldn't they just train a Ukrainian soldier to do that? And maybe there's some reasons behind that. Maybe it's a lot of money. I don't know, but seems kind of weird. We all knew this was going to happen. And then the West decries that Russia redo the selection of Putin. China, India vows closer ties. Now, I found this late in the day, and I thought this was interesting. Western governments lined up on Monday to condemn Russian President Vladimir Putin's landslide selection as unfair and undemocratic. But China, India, and North Korea congratulated the veteran leader on extending his rule by a further 6 years. The contrasting reactions underscored the geopolitical fault lines that have been gapped wider since Russia launched a full-scale invasion of Ukraine 2 years ago, triggering, the deepest crisis in relations with the West since the end of the Cold War. Which now there's a lot of talk about us being in a new Cold War. How many of you have seen the new Turning Point documentary about Cold War? And I understand that a lot of people are saying that that's full of Ganda, including it even has UKR's president in it. How many of you guys have seen that? So what they're essentially saying, though, is that we're in a Cold War right now. Like, this is the new Cold War. How many of you seen that? What did you guys think about it? Let me know in the comments. I haven't gotten through it. I only watched the first part of it where it shows the nuclear bomb and Japan and all of that. But what did you think of it? Should I watch the rest of it or should I ditch it? I usually watch, even if it is Ganda, I try to watch it and try to pull out what is Ganda out of it. How many of you guys have seen that? Now, mind you, this has a point to it. Let's see here. Hey, Beer Juice, Briar Patch, by the way. Baron Saturday. Not yet. Should I see it? I thought the first part was pretty good about the whole... I mean, it's well put together. These are big budget documentaries. So even if it's full of just complete lies, they're going to package it up nicely. But yeah. Let's see here. Always a sprinkle of truth in Ganda. Yeah, and there was. I know there was some truth in there. Nope. Wow, not a lot of people. J Girl, that's me. You saw it. What did you think of it? Jammer 1. Did you see Turning Point, the Cold War documentary that's all plastered all over Netflix? Baron Saturday. So essentially, and why this is going somewhere, and by the way, so they say since the end of the Cold War, they're saying that it's a new Cold War. They they repeat over and over, this is what a Cold War is. It's essentially when you are in a war where the powers are so strong that the weapons are so devastating that you can't go to physical war with each other. So you end up doing all of these other things. And this is what we've pointed out. In that part, I do believe, I agree with that, where we are at a point where they have to do cyber events. All of the stuff that is going on right now, all of the economy, all of the stuff that's happening in our schools, the operations that are happening all around us that nobody knows is happening, the changes in the cultural shifts, the collapsing of the family and moral values and everything else. There's agendas behind them, and it's pretty hard not to see it like that once you kind of see what they said 20, 30, 40 years ago. But they're calling for this whole thing to be redone. And some say that they even meddled with their day and that there were attacks and different things that happened and that NATO might have even helped them with that. So I see a lot of comments saying that it's complete hypocrisy, and this is just comments of random people, that it's hypocrisy that everybody accused them of meddling with our stuff in our day, and then end up that they are now accusing us of meddling with theirs. What do you guys think? Let me know. And do you believe we are in a Cold War right now? Do you believe we're already in World War III, or what do you think? And then officials in Moldova's breakaway Transnistria blame Ukrainian drone strike after military site blast. So, mind you, we called 6-7 months ago that we were going to see more and more about Transnistria and Moldova. And that's exactly what you would see, especially like what we talked about before with Georgia and the breakaway border of Ukraine. And again, if they end up taking all the way into Ukraine and then take 2 more countries, is that kind of their eye for an eye, tooth for tooth? They added 2 countries on their border, so they took 2 back. And then officials in Moldova's breakaway, Transnistria, basically said that this strike hit. So, Dex, as far as the strike that hit, you have this breakaway, essentially, that wants to side with Russia, saying that they're attacking and doing things like this.
Well, yeah, and you got to wonder how much of it is Ganda, and I don't know which side, because when you look at Moldova's side, the Moldova Bureau of Reintegration Policy said in a statement that after examining the video footage, they do not confirm any attack on Transnistria and call it an attempt to cause fear and panic in the region. So you got 2 different sides of the story. Apparently, obviously, there was some sort of event that happened there, but on one side they're saying UKR put a drone in, and on the other side, they're saying, no, we don't see that happening at all. And, everybody stands to gain from this based on their narrative. So, and getting factual information out of these areas is very difficult. So we have to just look at what is being said on both sides and try to piece together and understand. But ultimately, we do know that there is the conflict now, and it's growing at a greater level with Transnistria and its parent country, Moldova, and the fact that they are aligning themselves, or have always been aligned, with Russia. And to the extent that we know for a fact, as of the last 2 weeks, or at least a week, but I think it's been 2 weeks, they officially asked Russia to step in and help them.
And mind you, it says that Russia bases about 1,500 troops in Transnistria. nominally as peacekeepers guarding huge Soviet-era weapons and ammunition stockpiles at the military depot in Kabazna. I did not know that. So that was something I just found out. So they have Russian weapons inside of Moldova. It totally makes sense why a year and a half ago you have Lukashenko pointing that they're going to take Moldova. There's already huge connections there, and there's already troops based in Transnistria, the breakaway region inside of Moldova. So, are they gonna? But will they take all of if they ever did? If it's even true, would they take all of Moldova, or would they just take Transnistria and acquire it into Russia? What do you guys think? And then China. Okay, so all right, we want to. Dex, did we get confirmation of this? And we basically wanted to tell you. Okay, so I'm trying to source this. Who let me know about this? Somebody. I saw a comment. Somebody said, "I'm surprised nobody's talking about this." Talking about China ready to intervene. I was going to give credit to a Fugel fan member. I know that somebody showed it to me or I saw it on a comment. But then it made me look it up, and I could not confirm this. So they say that a foreign minister in China, again, not confirmed, said through a Telegram channel. So this is like really shaky stuff. Take this with a huge cup of salt. But what is claimed is that this foreign minister, which anything they say has to kind of be approved by the CCP, said that they were ready to intervene if NATO attacks Russia. So I'll read you what they actually say, and this is coming from one of these Telegram channels. And by the way, what's crazy is mainstream media covered all sorts of Telegram channels when it came to Putin's cancer and all of this other stuff. So take it with the same grain of salt that you took it with Putin has cancer, Putin has a poo assistant, all of that stuff. Take it with the same grain of salt that you took that with, right? It says, here we go. A representative of China's Ministry of Defense, MOD, on Saturday allegedly, and they are careful to say that, allegedly said that Beijing is, quote, ready to intervene if the United States or NATO decide to attack Russia. A Telegram channel, WW3 Info Battlefield Research, reported. This comes as intergovernmental military alliance and Moscow are at odds since Sweden officially joined NATO earlier this month. The Telegram channel quotes a Chinese defense representative as saying China is ready to intervene militarily anywhere if the U.S. or NATO decide to attack Russia. We have reached out to the department to verify the claim. Now, one thing, it says, it does not say intervene. Well, by the way, actually, what's crazy is this is a comment that can kind of be backed up. So they say that they are no limits partners. They have essentially said that they're an ally of Russia. So it's safe to assume that something like this may be said, right? But as far as this goes, yeah. But yeah, if the United States or NATO attacks Russia, they are straight up allies. They have a lot invested in Russia. In fact, over the last 5 years, Russia and China have become very close, and they've been switching lands. Russia has been growing food and different things for China so that China can cut us out of the picture, and China has been doing that for Russia. They're basically saying they're best buds for life. So I don't see this as a crazy claim, but as far as the source, it's super shaky. So Dex, I mean, I could see them saying that they would back up Russia if U.S. or NATO attacked, but how likely is it that U.S. or NATO would attack, or at least report it like that, right? It would have to be a Fantastic Freddy or something. Like, we wouldn't just do a first strike on Russia, I would think.
Yeah, I don't. Gosh, at this stage, who knows? I'm thinking, I'm probably in line with you around whether or not it's, a Fantastic Freddy or But nonetheless, like, how would China get engaged? Would they fly in? Would they bring some of their navy in? That's what I'd be really interested to know how they would engage, or would they come across the rail, all the way through Russia? I don't know. It would be interesting to see how they would engage in something that is not in their, local area. It's not, they don't have a lot of experience in fighting major conflicts on the other side of the world, so to speak. And it's not totally the other side of the world, but it is pretty far.
Yeah. And like you said, they could take a train. And then China's military state media slam U.S. after Reuters report on SpaceX spy satellites. Dex, do you want to go over this? So we, of course, talked about the secret launch of Russia, and then SpaceX launched this.
Yeah, so apparently they're upset after the report that came out, which found that Elon Musk SpaceX was building hundreds of spy satellites for the U.S. intelligence agency. So the Chinese military and state-run media accused the U.S. of threatening global security around this. So the Star Shield unit, it's developing a satellite network under a classified $1.8 billion contract with the National Reconnaissance Office, the NRO. And the social media account run by the PLA said that the SpaceX program exposed the United States' shamelessness and double standards, as they said in quotes, accusing, as Washington accuses China tech companies of threatening the U.S. security. So they're sort of throwing it back at us. We say that, we're taking out their TikTok or Huawei or any of the other technology and the chips and all the stuff that we want to ban from them, but they're saying it's sort of a double standard. They go on to say that we urge U.S. companies to not help a villain do evil, as they say, and all countries worldwide should be vigilant and protect against the new and even bigger security threats created by the U.S. government. So yeah, China's not happy about it. Of course, they're not just gonna say congratulations, keep building your spy satellites to look at us. So I would expect it.
But you would think that as far as Musk's second largest market is in China, you would think that they could sanction Elon Musk, right? His second largest market for Tesla is in China. Which
we just reported.
Oh, that's right.
They just did. They stopped. They told everybody in the government, and then they started telling the citizens, "Hey, stop buying Teslas and stop buying iPhones. Don't be relying on the U.S. anymore."
Oh, that's right, and that's part of the bigger picture. Look at so we are separating from China, and I told you this when it's simple. They put it into straight up terms, right? JB said in his speech, he said, soon we'll go back to everything's made in America. How does that happen? How does it get to a point where everything's made back in America if everything now is made in China, unless we cut ties with China? And then right after that, in a press conference, JB had the CEO of Intel stand up and say, and this is the Intel CEO. But which, by the way, if I think about that press conference, like JB actually spoke very clearly and he didn't gaffe. It's like, did you notice that about a year in, it was like all of a sudden he just started gaffing all the time? It's like he did a couple, but it's like now it's like every 10 seconds. And it's like, is he really going downhill that fast? Or even liberal media says, oh, well, he's just a nice old man. He's just a nice elderly man. But he really is. Either he's going downhill that fast or it's on purpose because they are purposely making him look like, a jack. I don't know. What do you guys think? Let me know in the comments down below. But if you looked at that speech, he had him stand up and he said that they were bringing chips into America. And that what I said then was I thought it was because they are going to lose Taiwan, that they're accepting that Taiwan is going to be taken by China. And they're not going to risk the current admin. Do you see the current admin going to World War III over Taiwan? Or do you see them doing sanctions and trying to stop it that way, and it doesn't work and they end up just taking Taiwan? I don't know. Before we move on, speaking of which, if things do go down with China, reminder, with even just the hack that happened a couple weeks ago, 30,000 pharmacies went down. That is what spurred Fugel family members to ask, how do we get backup medications? Where can we get things? We have a resource for you, which is really great. Jace. Again, you can go get yourself a Jace case, which has emergency life-saving medications and antibiotics in it as kind of a kit. But there's also a huge, awesome service, which depends on what you actually take every day. But there's a lot of medications that you can actually get up to a year of basically backup. Again, there was one woman who reported that her specific medications, she could only get a 3-month backup, but a lot of them you can actually get a year of backup medication through their system. So again, go there to learn more, but that means that you can always rotate your medicine in as well. So you'll always have a year of medication. So when you get your regular medication, you can put that at the end of the cycle and then take the emergency stuff. So it's a really, really great service. And again, that means that, so say if there's something goes down with China, 97% of APIs, active pharmaceutical ingredients, are made in China. If 90 to 93% of all antibiotics are made in China. So as far as that goes, imagine where we will be if we have a separation from China. And now pretty much everyone is saying that within the next couple of years, something is going to go down with China. If that is the case, you will be backed up, especially with certain medications. It's a huge deal for you to have backups. But otherwise, for the Jace case, you can actually add on things like albuterol. There's other things that were hard to get. You can always get that there as well. So go check it out. marfuglenews.com/Jace, and make sure to use the code MARF. Dex, go ahead.
Hey, Lori D in chat said that the person was talking that their doctor could only get 3 months, not Jace.
Oh,
and that's true,
okay.
because I have a daily med, and all I can get is 3 months from my doctor, but I can get to 1 year from Jace.
Yeah, same with her. And then I don't know if you guys have ever had this where you had a 3-month supply of something and then they reduced it down to a month, which makes it absolutely a pain in the butt. But
what's worse is when you have the 3-month supply and then you go back 3 months later and they've raised the price almost double.
Yeah. Well,
it's just so frustrating.
That's also why it's better to get a long. I don't know. I actually think it's better that way because they're constantly. Yeah,
if you have a long-term supply, you could decide to let that dwindle for a while and see if the prices come back down because they do ebb and flow. But yeah.
Oof. Yeah, and everything is going to go up. If we separate from China, it's going to be its own apocalypse with pharmaceuticals. That's marfuglenews.com/Jace. And then let's see here. Dex, do you want to go into the next one? I'm going to pull it up real quick.
Yes. Is this, I think we're talking about North Korea firing ballistic missiles as Blinken is visiting Seoul. So talk about timing. But certainly when this happens, it's obvious that something's, the tit for tat continues as far as escalations. We had the drills, they did some firing, we did some things back. They've done some more firing now as Blinken shows up in Seoul for a meeting and visits Seoul, Korea. The North is firing multiple short-range ballistic missiles on Monday. So that happened just today. And what the analysts are saying is a calculated move to grab the attention and get that attention, obviously, because the Secretary of State is there. So Blinken's attending the third summit for democracy and met President Yoon Suk-yeol in Seoul early Monday. He's also meeting his South Korean counterpart on the sidelines of the event for discussions on how likely to be dominated by, or that is likely to be dominated by, the Allies' effort to counter the threats from the nuclear-armed North. So everything we are doing with the South right now is in defense of the North. It's like our military goes there, and the drills are all about it. It was either decapitation drills, or it was defensive drills, or it was nuclear drills. All of those things have gone on. When we have political meetings with the South, it's always about what are we going to do, or what can be done about the North, whether it's additional sanctions, or what are the insights they can have. So all the posturing is all about conflict. Now, go to the North. The posturing there is all about conflict, and it's grown even more in the last 6 months. We thought it was growing a lot over the last years, but it's grown significantly just in the last 6 months. In the fact that they eliminated their reunification, even tore down reunification statues or massive monuments that they had towards it, explicitly have called out now that they are planning and they are plotting for conflict, and they've invested heavily in their manufacturing, and even gone so far as to try to roll out manufacturing to the rural regions, stating that they need more manufacturing for the North. And we know what that really means. It's not that they need more toys under the Christmas tree. It means they're probably going to be amping up their military production, because not only is it a source for themselves to go into conflict with the South, it's also becoming a giant revenue generator for them with countries like Russia, who is buying a lot of their equipment at the moment to use in the UKR event.
Yeah, and Pyongyang this month warned that Seoul and Washington would pay a dear price over the drills, and later announced that North Korean leader Kim Jong-un had guided an artillery unit it says was capable of striking the South Korean capital. They also did a drill, which, just to remind you, we covered, where the drill was the hypothetical scenario. In the drill, they actually wrote it down and compared it to what Hamas did to Israel. So they compared it to those events, that North Korea in this drill supposedly fired artillery into South Korea by surprise. And in the drill, they pretended or drilled to go in and take out all of the artillery that did it. So that was one of their practice drills, other than the drills that they were doing, that they do every year. So they changed it up with that other drill. And Niger ordered U.S. troops to leave after JB officials warned about ties to Russia and Iran, according to the Pentagon. Again, Niger is pulling its military cooperation deal with the United States and ordering 1,000 American military personnel to leave the country, a startling development that comes after U.S. officials last week traveled to the capital of Niamey to raise a number of concerns about Niger growing closer to Russia and Iran, the Pentagon said Monday. The ruling military junta on Saturday revoked a major accord known as the Status of Forces Agreement, which allows U.S. forces in Niger. JB administration officials are aware of this and are working through diplomatic channels to seek clarification, Pentagon Deputy Press Secretary Sabrina Singh told reporters. I don't know where the Ganda is in this, but my first thought was like, oh, did they get caught with their hand in the cookie jar? Like, this seems like an action they would do if they were, talking to Russia and Iran. They're, like, the jig is that, they're going to accuse, how dare you? Get out of our country. But there's a reason why there was that agreement in the first place, so now they don't need them. The ruling military junta on Saturday revoked the major accord. But just last week, a delegation from Washington that included Assistant Secretary of State for African Affairs Molly Fee, Assistant Secretary of Defense for International Security Affairs Celeste Wallander, and U.S. Africa Command Head General Michael Langley met with officials of Niger's National Council for Safeguard of the Homeland, the CNSP. It says the U.S. delegation was there to raise a number of concerns. We were troubled on the path that Niger is on. And so these were direct and frank conversations to have in person to talk about our concerns and to also hear theirs. So essentially they say, well, hey, we have concerns that you guys are getting tied up with Iran and Russia. And they just said, get out. What do you guys think happened there? I just given you my first response to it, but I don't know how that will age. It seems like maybe they were. Why would they go so extreme that says just get out? Are they really offended that they thought that might be happening? What is the USA basing that on? It says the JB administration also raised alarms over whether Niger was close to an agreement to give Iran access to its uranium reserves, the Wall Street Journal reported. The future of U.S. military presence in Niger has been a question since military junta in late July put the country's president on house arrest and took control of the government. How much of that do you think was a three-letter agency, whether it be the FSA, KGB / Russia, or Mossad, or CIA? Sounds like if the U.S. is getting kicked out, maybe it was the FSA, but who knows?
Hey, I tripped you up earlier when I said FSA. It's FSB.
Yeah, okay, that's what I thought. No,
sorry about that.
Well, I just keep calling them KGB. So what does FS stand for now? Foreign Service Bureau?
It was Foreign Intelligence. It was the FIS, which then turned into the FSB. It was Foreign Intelligence Service or something, but it translates from Russian to make up the acronym, so I don't know.
Okay, well, either way, KGB. What was KGB? The Kremlin goody boys? Why don't I know that? KGB. What is the KGB? The Krispy Kreme gerbil?
Komitet
bats?
Gustartezvenoi Vezopasanazi. I'm just completely butchering that, but yeah.
Hearing you say foreign words is hilarious.
It's ridiculous. I just
when you said Transnistria for the first time, I thought we were going to get canceled. Okay. Niger ordered U.S. troops to leave after JB officials warned about ties. Oh, okay. I'm reading the same thing here. Okay, next. Israel, Biden, and Netanyahu hold first call in more than a month as tensions grow over food crisis and the war. JB and Netanyahu, of course, did this call. And this is as, of course, JB and the White House is supposedly saying, well, don't do Rafah. A lot of people saw the video or the press conference of JB saying, well, I think it's over the top what they're doing. And I think that they need to, chill out, whatever else. A lot of people actually commented, even I saw people on the right say he actually sounded sincere. And I'm like, okay. But they said that President JB and Benjamin Netanyahu spoke on Monday, their first interaction in more than a month, as the divide has grown between allies over the food crisis in the Strip and the conduct of the war, according to the White House. The call comes after Republicans in Washington and Israel officials were quick to express outrage after Senate Majority Leader Chuck Schumer sharply criticized Netanyahu's handling of the conflict in the Strip and called for Israel to hold new Selection Day. They accused the Democratic leader of breaking the unwritten rule against interfering in a close ally's selection politics. And it said that JB hasn't endorsed Schumer's call for a Selection Day redo, but said that thought he gave a good speech that reflected the concerns of many Americans. The White House has been skeptical of Netanyahu's plan of carrying out an operation in the southern city of Rafah, to which more than 1 million displaced Palestinians have fled, as Israel looks to eliminate Hamas following Hamas' deadly October 7th attack. JB administration officials have warned that they would not support such an operation without the Israelis presenting a credible plan to ensure the safety of innocent Palestinian civilians. So, as far as Dex, these calls, do you know if can they like turn something on to where they can secretly talk? Or how does that work? When a president talks to somebody, do they always transcribe it? Or can they do a top secret call afterwards? Can they switch a switch and then go? You would think that they would be able to talk without anybody listening in, right?
Well, one would think, but I also think that when it comes to communications like that, especially with state heads, they would need to have everything recorded. So I don't know. It's probably why they do in-person meetings sometimes, because they can step aside to a room and presumably talk privately.
Or do they send Barack? Who knows? I don't know. But what's going to happen? They haven't told us, so I guess we'll see what they ended up getting talked about, right? And then U.S. is bracing for huge national security threat as gang-riddled Haiti heading for collapse. So, by the way, T-Man, our former president, actually made several comments about this. Of course, they're not going to show you on MSM because most of the speeches are completely only on the internet, where you have to search them out. But he has said a lot of stuff lately. He said that the auto industry is heading for a blood bath, and a lot of folks actually said, basically saying that, if he doesn't win, that it's going to head that way. The full context of it is that he was talking about the auto industry, but both sides even say that he was basically saying, like, things are going to go crazy if he doesn't win this next selection, right? And it says the U.S. is bracing for a huge national security threat as this gang-riddled Haiti heading for the collapse. But one thing he said is that that these guys are hardened criminals, and these guys are the worst of the worst. Now, I don't know how much T-Man gets updated on this stuff. All former presidents are supposed to get like a intelligence briefing that they usually still keep their clearance, and they can get updates on that. I don't know why they decided. Why do they do that, by the way? It's like, it's not like if the whole cabinet is gone, they have continuity of government, and you would think, and here's one thing I think about, is like continuity of government. If the vice president, the speaker of the house, everybody in succession gets taken out, it's like, I just wonder why the former president, if they're not still alive, why wouldn't they be in there somewhere? If you have somebody that can run it, why isn't that a part of it? Have you ever wondered that? I guess I've never really asked it until recently, but if there's somebody who literally did the job before, or even 2 or 3 of them, if there's 3 former presidents or 4 former presidents alive, why wouldn't they be in that order somehow? I guess it's how the government's set up in general, but...
the current president tried to take it away back in 2021. He said there was no need for the former president, T-Man, to get those briefings.
Yeah, and
I think Obama still gets them, but even T-Man, when he was president, made a comment about maybe taking it away from Obama. But I don't think it ever happened. It was more just a comment.
So, and that's why I bring it up, because if T-Man is saying this in his speeches, what does he know? Did he get an update, or did they purposely update it? Think about this: they could purposely give him an update, knowing he's going to say a whole speech to people. And you wonder if he'll believe whatever his update is, or his briefing, and then if they know that he'll say it to his whole campaign rally, like they could trick him into saying something, or I don't know. I don't think he's that stupid though. But what he said is that these are crazy hardened criminals, and that's the worst of the worst coming over. And pretty much everybody I've talked to says that they believe it, that this is, and a lot of them actually think this is on purpose, that they're sending in really, really bad people because they're about to set up some horrible event. And it says the U.S. is on the brink of a major national security threat as violence rages on in Haiti, displacing 15,000 people in just 1 week. It says in 2023, roughly 70,000 Haitians fled to the U.S., and leaders are concerned that this could only get worse as gangs tighten their grip on the country. Haitian gangs have so far taken the lives of 3,700 and control over 80% of the nation's capital, Port-au-Prince. They also shut down the airport, making international responses and freeing trapped U.S. citizens extremely difficult. Florida Governor Ron DeSantis has already announced a crackdown on immigration into his state, which poses the easiest route into the U.S. from Haiti. Secretary of State Anthony Blinken also encouraged Kenya to mobilize 1,000 police officers to protect Haiti. But remember, they were like, well, no, we want to be paid up front. We want our cash now. It's our cash, and we want it now. JB administration. But yeah. And then that's barbecue, which in all the documentaries over the last few years, they showed him and he was like a nice guy. And like people would come up and be like, hey, I'm making cookies. You want one? And he would kick the soccer ball for the kids. Now he's he's running the whole place. So what happened from running like a small neighborhood to now running 80% of the capital? Did a 3-letter agency hand him some weapons? Did he get a crate of money dropped on his house and all of a sudden he united the gangs? Before, he had a tiny hole in the wall where he could look over into the next block because there were other gangs that wanted to take his dome piece. But now, all of a sudden, he has united them all. Which, if you see the interviews with him, I guess he is a personable guy. And apparently is that Scotch tape holding on another clip, or what is that? Is that Scotch tape? Did he
or cellophane, saran wrap? Yes. I'd go with the tape.
Wait.
Because it's usually black tape.
Maybe I don't know. I don't. Did he play Call of Duty and just like the look of the long extended clips and they're like, let's just.
It allows you to flip it when you run out of one. You just
take it
that's
the top. Okay,
yeah,
that's cool.
They're reverse. So you tape them up. Usually it's black, duct tape or something. But
I was thinking
they're out of duct tape down there.
Wow. Okay. Saran wrap or Scotch tape. I don't know. Good if you did it tight enough, I guess. So yeah, I didn't know that. That's a smart little hack there. Take note. Barbecue, the barbecue notes. And then Haiti police launch a major offensive operation in gang leader Jimmy Barbecue Terrier's stronghold. So they were trying to take back some of the held territory. Haitian police have launched a major operation in the stronghold of gang leader Jimmy Barbecue Terrier. According to reports, special forces soldiers and police officers carried out the raid against gangs in Bas Delmas. On Friday evening, several bandits have already perished, according to local media. The operation came as attacks continued in Haiti's capital, Port-au-Prince, on Friday in the aftermath of the resignation of Prime Minister Ariel Henry. Again, the guy who left, and that also ties into what was previously reported. The Kenyan police, the 1,000 police officers, did not want to go in. They only wanted to go in under Prime Minister Ariel Henry, because I'm sure he probably had a bigger commission on his the laundered funds or something. I don't know. Yeah, just saying. But we'll see what ends up happening with that. And I guess we'll know by tomorrow how all of this stuff went down. And then Trump has failed to get an appeal bond for $454 million civil fraud judgment. So this is pretty crazy. So he was trying to look for a bond, which basically he would have to come up with 10%. He even asked if he could do $100 million. He said, I can get that, $100 million. They turned him down. And mind you, I was saying earlier, like, I bet you he's been offered, and this is so how corrupt this is. What do you want to bet he's been offered? Hey, we'll drop, you don't have to pay the $4 million. Just drop out and we'll drop the whole thing. What do you want to bet he has been offered that? And if you realize if he's really not going to take that, if that deal exists, which I bet it does, like, hey, you drop out of if you drop out of the running, we'll wipe that away. What do you want to bet that that's been offered? And most likely, if that is an option, right? Imagine half of your net worth or more, or your net worth, that you don't drop out to continue doing that. That's pretty crazy. Again, it's not confirmed, but do you guys wonder, like, if he dropped out of the running, do you think that this would still be happening? I don't know. Dex, go ahead.
Well, and keep in mind, it's not just 484 million. They want the full amount. So he's got to either come up, whatever the number is, 400 plus million, 464 million. He's got to pay that, then appeal it, and if he wins, he'll get the money back. But if he loses, then he loses, and he's already paid the money, and it's already done. But here's the thing. He's not just like billionaires. Even Elon, they don't have that kind of cash sitting around. They have that much money sitting in assets, and they're sitting in stocks, or they're sitting in investments, or they're locked up in long-term CDs or other investments in companies. In T-Man's case, most of all of it's in real estate. So if he wanted to actually get his hands on that money and he needed it tomorrow, the only thing he can do is sell the real estate. Not likely he can leverage it, because he's probably already tried that. He's already tried to get these surety companies, which they've all said, hey, there's no such thing as a bond for that amount. We've never seen it, and we won't do it. We don't even go over 100. So why are you asking for 464? Everyone they talked to said, no, we don't even come close to that. It's not even in our business model. Well, the point is that 464 is going to cost him so much more. Imagine if he has $464 million worth of properties he could sell, but he's got to sell them immediately. He's not going to get full price for them. He's going to have to sell them for less to make them sell quickly, to find someone that'll buy it immediately and give him that. So that 464 is going to cost him even more. And if he loses all those properties, that maybe say it's $700,000 worth of properties to get 464 million, then wins later, it's not like he can get that back. He's really out 700 million, or he's really out 600 million, however much he loses, because he has to fire sale his properties to get this cash. That's a big sacrifice.
Yeah, and what's crazy is I see these new skyscrapers. The skyscrapers cost $1 billion to make and to build. You would think something like, I don't know how many things he owns, and I haven't followed closely, but like, say, T-Man Tower, right? Is that something that's worth $1 billion in itself, or is it worth $300 million? Like, does he have to?
It may be, but he may have a loan on it, right? He may own it, but he may only have 20%, 30% equity in it. The banks may own most of it.
Gosh, you would think, somebody of that status, you think that they would, if you were a billionaire like that, you would think that they would just keep. So, by the way, the reason most of us can't make money is because we don't have money. Like, if you have billions of dollars, if you continually just buy properties, all those properties go up. Especially imagine being able to buy properties over the last 10 years and have millions of dollars just to sell it. You could buy little, in his case, $500,000 houses, and each one of them would 6-7 times it over 10, 15 years. In so many, like up here in Seattle, like my aunt's house, 2008, it was like $500,000. Now it's worth $2 million, and it's not a nice house either. It's an okay house, but there's a lot of houses in Washington. All of them have just they've skyrocketed. I have friends that bought their first house, dinky, tiny $300,000 house. Now it is close to $1 million or $700,000 because of what's going on here. If I was a multi-billionaire and had all this money, even if it was in assets, I would sell that stock, go grab multiple houses, and it would all go up. You got to think this guy has to have tons and tons of property, but still $450 million. And you look at the opinion of the people and what people are saying, it's like, if he really does have to pay this because he wasn't going to just drop out, I'm sure there's going to be a lot of people that are even more inclined to go and pick him for that spot. Like, there's going to be more and more people, even if it's not true. People are going to pick him because they realize he's being persecuted. People always go for the underdog, and now he's like a martyr, and now everybody's going to go nuts. And that brings you back to those comments he made about if it's a bath, like it will, if he doesn't win, like what's going to happen. Amarillo Hunt Runners says, why is everyone freaking out over the eclipse? Well, because it's there's biblical reasons too. I mean, like this goes back a long time. It's the fact that there's multiple eclipses, the X over the country. Again, when I first saw it, I'm like, okay, it does an X and it's in a reasonable amount of time. But there's like planet alignments. There is, as Sweat in Ministry says, a blood moon on the 25th. There's all sorts of events. But again, the eclipses are rare, but specifically the eclipses around biblical events. That's why I believe that it's also really important. But I'm not an expert of why people are freaking out over it. Also, if you've watched
double X.
Well, yeah, it's a double X. But also, if you've watched some of I've seen some crazy videos, and they actually do kind of trip me out. The X on the last one went over a very biblical name, like 6 biblical names. Like it went over 6 cities that were all named for a Bible name. Like crazy that it went over the 6 same names. This one goes over another 6 or 7 names that are biblical. There's a lot of little crazy things that people are pulling out from this eclipse. Some people aren't of that nature. They don't look at those kind of things, but a lot of folks have found some really eerie things about how this eclipse lines up.
The public amassing too. Sorry, Adam.
I know.
Hundreds of thousands of people are going to amass in small areas along this line. Not only causing problems for those cities, but just creating an event or an opportunity for a bad person to do something with a lot of people present.
And it's in Texas, where a lot of this is going to cross over. Thousands of people are going to Texas. And that's the same place all these folks are coming in. People think that there's going to be a Fantastic Freddy. Yeah, so, and then also part of the freak out is because the actual cities have told people to stay home during that time period, that it's going to get crazy, that there might be trouble. There's also the threats from the FBI of nationwide events. Sheriff Rick Jones coming out saying that they believe that this is the highest national security risk since 2001. And they're putting that into the back of our heads. And then, of course, the cyber events that have been going on. I don't know. I think it all just kind of culminates. The Civil War movie, all of the predictive programming, all of the agendas, the Ganda. I think it's all coming together. Speaking of which, if you want to be prepared for any disaster, whatever comes your way, I highly recommend going and getting some freeze-dried food. It lasts 25 years. And again, it's gonna be very efficient to keep, as far as it's very a space-saving way to keep a lot of food. They have the 1 month supply, and the 3 month supply, and they rotate the sales on that. So if you're watching a replay, make sure to go check on the current one. It was $60 off on the 1 month, but then they did rotate it out to the $200 off on the 3 month. So make sure to check which one is current. Go to marfooglenews.com/prep. Of course, you'll get everything you need for one person for 3 months, or again, one person for 1 month. If you get the 3 month, that splits up. So if you have 2 people, that's a month and a half or 6 weeks of food. If you have 3 people, that's a month of food for 3 people, and so on. If you're trying to get a whole lot, the reason we picked this is it is affordable, and it is something that, of course, it is one of the most affordable ways to get 25-year shelf life food, other than doing it yourself, which you have to invest in a system to do it. So go over and check it out, marfooglenews.com/prep. And then, Dex, do you want to go over China responds to India tensions with new military drills near the border?
So look, we just had a really great video we put out over on the news channel. It's a short video. It's easy to share. It's one of those that pretty much puts all of the information you need together on one specific subject, and that is this. What is happening between China and India, and the fact that India has moved 10,000 troops to the border. China has responded by creating new drills near this area. Yet both of these have been acting like they are partners, especially with BRICS and a lot of other things, and doing joint drills and other stuff. So the real question is, are they setting up for their own war amongst each other, or is this really some sort of diversion? And I think it's really worth your time to go check that out. A lot of you I know right now watching live probably came from that video, and that's fine. But for those of you that missed it, make sure you go check it out. It's over on Marfoogle News. A lot of great information there that we should understand and talk about.
And absolutely, and again, if you have not gone and seen that, make sure to click on the link right here to get to that video. It is going to be the Shoutro, and I hope you guys join us. Again, thank you, Dex. I appreciate you.
Much love. Great job, brother.
You guys be safe, be prepared, and Marf out. Love you. It's time for the Shoutro. It's not an outro. It's not a shout out. It's a Shoutro. Look at that little one. The fur baby. Again, this is going to go to my sister. Cutie booty. We'll get you back to mama.
Why does all the Congress have a go bag? I give you answers, but you know that.